Welcome back to the deep end. If you've been with us for a while, you know we usually take a stack of articles, maybe a book or two, and try to make you the smartest person at the dinner table.
Or at least the most interesting.
Right. But today is different. We aren't just looking at news. We are looking at, well, what feels like a diagnostic of civilization.
That is a very heavy way to start a Tuesday. But you're right, it feels less like we're reading an article and more like we're reading an MRI scan of a patient that doesn't know they're sick yet.
That is the perfect analogy. We are cracking open the AI Futures series again. Specifically, we are looking at the work authored by Jafar Humayun. Now, for anyone new to this isn't your standard top 10 AI tools listicle. This is, well, it's high-level strategy, it's dense, it's serialized, and frankly, it's a little bit terrifying in how clear-eyed it is.
It really is. And today we are focusing exclusively on episode 26. But before we even touch the content, we have a very specific job to do. The author, Jafar, has a specific framing for this entire project. And if we don't set that context first, we're going to completely miss the forest for the trees.
Right, the foundation. So I'm going to read this pretty much verbatim because the words really, really matter here. Here's the framework.
Lay it on us.
AI Futures is not a forecast. It's a framework. This series explores how AI may unravel the systems we take for granted, not to alarm, but to challenge assumptions and spark deeper thinking about what comes next under maximum AI adoption.
I love that distinction between forecast and framework. It's so important. A forecast, it tells you it's going to rain on Tuesday at 3 p.m.
When you bring an umbrella.
Right. But a framework explains how atmospheric pressure and weather systems work so you can understand why the roof might blow off in a hurricane. It's a different level of understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We aren't predicting stock prices. We are looking at the plumbing of society. And the title of this particular installment, well, it really stops you in your tracks. Episode 26 is titled, Why Societies Can't Think Their Way Out.
It sounds like an insult, doesn't it? It sounds so final.
It does. I read that,
Yeah.
and my immediate reaction was defensive. I thought, excuse me, I can think, my listeners can think. We have scientists and philosophers and Nobel Prize winners. What do you mean we can't think our way out? It feels incredibly defeatist.
And that defensive reaction is actually part of the problem the source identifies. It's not saying that you individually are stupid. It's not saying humans lack the capacity for logic or reason.
Okay, yeah.
It's saying that society with a capital S as a collective entity has run into what it calls a cognitive bottleneck.
A cognitive bottleneck. Okay.
Okay.
I want to spend some real time on this because it feels like the foundation for the next hour. When I hear bottleneck, I think of traffic. I think of too many cars trying to get through a two-lane tunnel.
That's close. It's a great starting point. But let's use a tech analogy since we're talking about AI. Imagine you have a piece of software that is, well, it's exponential. It processes information at the speed of light. It evolves every second. It connects billions of data points simultaneously. That's AI.
Okay, that's the software. Got it.
Now imagine you are trying to run that software on a computer that was built in 1995.
Oh boy. Windows 95. I can hear the dial-up modem noise in my head right now.
Exactly. You've got limited RAM, you have linear processing, you have a user interface designed for a world that doesn't even exist anymore. That hardware, that old, slow computer, that's our current public discourse. That's our government, that's our media.
So the argument isn't that the software is evil or that it's going to become sentient.
Not at all. It's that the hardware, our collective operating system for society, cannot run the program. It's fundamentally incompatible.
So when we see things crashing, like, the extreme political polarization or the inability to pass even basic regulations or just this general sense of confusion you get from the news, that's not just people being angry. That's the blue screen of death.
Precisely. It's a compatibility error on a civilizational scale. We are trying to run exponential systemic problems through a linear narrative-based operating system. And the result is this cognitive bottleneck. We physically cannot process the signal fast enough or with enough complexity.
It completely changes the way you look at the news, doesn't it? It means the chaos isn't a bug in the system.
It's a feature of the mismatch. It's an architectural flaw, and that's what we are going to try and dismantle today. We're going to look at why our public conversations always fail when faced with complexity, why we are addicted to what Jafar calls comfort slogans, and this really terrifying concept of institutional bandwidth.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump into the first section of the analysis. The theater of opinion versus systemic reality. When I scroll through my feed or turn on the news, the conversation about AI usually revolves around money. Will ChatGPT take my job? Is NVIDIA stock going up? Is the economy going to crash?
Of course, those are the questions we ask, because those are the questions our operating system knows how to process. We understand jobs, we get money, they're tangible.
Right.
But the source argues that the economic crisis is actually secondary. It's a symptom, it's the fever. The primary crisis, the actual disease, is cognitive.
Cognitive, meaning the way we think about the problem is the problem.
Yes, exactly. Think about the systems that are currently starting to buckle under the strain. You have labor markets, education, financial systems, international relations. These are what systems theorists call complex adaptive systems. They are layered, they have feedback loops.
So if you pull a lever in education, it affects the labor market 10 years later. It's all connected.
Deeply, deeply connected and nuanced. That's the systemic reality. It's complicated. But now look at the conversation we have about them. Look at the public interface.
Oh, it's a disaster. It's 280 characters on Twitter. It's a 30-second clip on TikTok. It's a headline that's designed to make you angry and click, not to make you understand.
And this is what the source calls structural decoupling. There is a complete and growing separation between thinking, which the source defines as being slow, predictive, and emotionally neutral in public discourse.
I want to drill down on that definition of thinking. Slow, predictive, and emotionally neutral. To be honest, that sounds boring.
It is boring. That's the entire point. Real, effective problem solving, the kind that fixes a hole in the ozone layer or redesigns a global supply chain or develops a vaccine, is incredibly tedious. It requires you to sit in a room, look at contradictory data, weigh trade-offs, and not get angry about it.
It's spreadsheets and white papers.
It is. And then you have the public interface, which is the exact opposite of that.
Right. It's all about speed.
The modern media landscape demands speed, it demands snap judgments, and more than anything, it demands an emotional payoff. It demands a hit of dopamine. Anger, validation, outrage, something.
This is what the source calls the incentive gap.
Precisely. You cannot install long-form, emotionally neutral logic into a media feed that is designed for dopamine hits. It's not just difficult, it's structurally impossible. The system will reject it like a foreign organ.
It's like trying to upload a feature film over a dial-up modem.
Perfect analogy. If you write a 10-page nuanced analysis of AI regulation with all the pros and cons, nobody reads it, it gets zero traction. But if you tweet, AI is theft, or AI is our salvation, you get 1 million views. The incentives are completely skewed.
I feel this personally. Sometimes I'll try to have a nuanced conversation with friends about this stuff, and I feel this pressure to just have a take. You have to be pro-AI or anti-AI. If I say, well, it's complicated, I can almost see people's eyes glaze over. I look weak. I look unresolved.
And that pressure you feel, that is the operating system rejecting the software. The environment, our entire public square, actively discourages the type of thinking required to understand and manage AI. It punishes nuance, and it rewards simplistic tribal certainty.
So we're stuck in this massive gap. On one side, you have a system, AI, that requires slow, deep, neutral thinking to manage properly. On the other side, you have a public square that runs on fast, shallow, emotional thinking.
And the result is that we aren't actually talking about the reality of AI at all. We are watching a play. We are all sitting in the audience watching a theater performance about AI, while the actual AI is rewriting the code of civilization in the background, completely unobserved by the audience.
That is a chilling image. But here's the question that nags at me. Why are we like this? Is it just social media? Did Silicon Valley just ruin our brains in the last 15 years? Or is it something deeper? Because Section 2 of this deep dive suggests this isn't a tech problem, it's a biology problem.
It is absolutely a biology problem. We are biology before we are technology, and we forget that at our peril. To understand why our public square is failing, we have to look at evolutionary mechanics.
Okay, take us back to the savannah.
Right. Human societies, our brains, evolved to respond to stories, not to systems. Imagine you are an early human. You hear a rustle in the tall grass. Do you sit down and conduct a complex systemic analysis of wind patterns, predator migration routes, and the probability of it being a harmless rabbit?
No, because while I'm doing that, I get eaten by a lion.
Exactly. You run. You have an immediate emotional binary response. Danger versus safety, friend versus enemy, us versus them. Our brains are hardwired for narrative. We need a villain, a hero, and a simple plot.
So we are literally built to prefer outrage over nuance.
Yes. We prefer tribalism over complexity. We prefer identity over policy. And for 99.9% of human history, that was a massive evolutionary advantage. It kept us alive.
If the tribe from over the hill is attacking, I don't need to understand their complex socioeconomic grievances. I just need to rally my tribe to defend the perimeter. Story is a survival mechanism.
Correct. But here's the kicker, and this is the crucial point, that evolutionary software works perfectly fine when the problems you face move at narrative speed.
Narrative speed. What do you mean by that? Like the speed of a horse, the speed of a rumor traveling from one village to the next.
Yes, the speed of human communication. If a plague is coming or an army is invading, it takes weeks or months to arrive. You have time to tell stories about it. You have time for the elders to debate. You have time to process it socially, to build a consensus through narrative.
But AI isn't moving at the speed of a horse.
AI operates at systemic speed. It scales exponentially. Its capabilities can double in months, not centuries. It moves faster than the story.
Much, much faster. By the time society has formulated a coherent story about what ChatGPT is it a cheat tool for students? Is it a helpful assistant? The technology has already evolved 3 generations and is now doing something completely different that the story doesn't account for.
We are constantly fighting the last war. We're creating narratives for a reality that's already gone.
It feels like we aren't even fighting the war. We're arguing about the opening credits of the movie while the movie is already over and the theater is empty.
That's a great way to put it. The source calls the consequence of this lag the multiplier of friction.
I loved the analogy here. The fire. Can you walk us through that? Because it really clarified things for me.
Sure. Imagine a large building is on fire. That is the systemic reality. The fire is spreading through the walls, it's running the support beams, the electrical systems are failing. That is what's happening. But outside on the street, the crowd, the public is gathered, and they're arguing.
What are they arguing about? They're not getting water?
No, they're arguing about who lit the match. Was it him? Was it her? I bet it was those people from the next town over. They're arguing about whether fire, in principle, is good or bad. They're arguing about the history of fire and its role in human development.
Meanwhile, the building is about to collapse.
Exactly. And no one is putting water on the flames. Because arguing about the match feels good. It's emotionally satisfying. It feels like we're doing something important. I blamed the arsonist. I did my job.
The emotional signal blaming the arsonist completely outperforms the strategic sense, which is to just put out the damn fire.
Precisely. Every day we spend arguing about the narrative of AI is a day we are not building the structural guardrails for the system of AI.
And because AI is exponential, that delay isn't just lost time. It's not a linear cost.
It's a multiplier. Missing a day of action now is like missing a year of action in the 19th century. The fire doubles in size every minute while we argue about who should hold the hose.
This helps explain why the public conversation feels so unhinged. It feels like we are all screaming at each other at the top of our lungs, but nothing actually changes. The needle doesn't move.
We are screaming at the user interface. We aren't touching the underlying code. The system can't hear us.
Okay, let's look at section 3 then. Rationality versus public response styles. The source material has this brilliant little table that I found really helpful. It breaks down the mismatch perfectly.
Yeah, seeing it laid out side by side is very clarifying. It helps to visualize the disconnect.
So, comparison 1. The problem itself. The problem of integrating AI into society is systemic, it's layered, and it's abstract. It's in the cloud, it's in the supply chain, it's global. It's not something you can touch.
And the public response to that problem is?
Emotional, binary, and tribal. We don't want to hear about supply chains. We want to know, is this woke? Is this fascist? Is this good for my team or bad for my team?
We take this incredibly complex, multi-dimensional problem and we try to smash it flat onto a 2-dimensional political map. It just doesn't fit. You lose all the important details.
Then you have comparison 2. The goal. The goal of any sane society faced with this should be long-term optimization. We want a world where humans are still thriving in 2050, 2070, right?
That's the rational goal, yes. But the public desire, driven by that interface we talked about, is short-term emotional release. We don't want optimization. We want catharsis. We want to see someone get yelled at. We want a CEO to be dragged in front of Congress and publicly humiliated.
Oh, I see this all the time. I call it the Zuckerberg hearing phenomenon. We watch these congressional hearings, and the senators ask these grandstanding gotcha questions, and we get these little clips that go viral on social media where the senator looks tough. And for a moment, we feel satisfied.
We feel that release. He got told. But did the algorithm actually change? Did the data privacy laws get meaningfully updated? Did anything structural happen? Usually, no.
This is what the analysis calls policy as theater. It's a performance.
It's worse. It's crisis response as marketing. And that's a devastating critique of modern governance. When a complex problem arises, the political system, which relies on votes and public approval, prioritizes listening to the loudest rather than listening to the accurate.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't that just democracy? I mean, politicians are supposed to listen to the people. If the people are loud and angry, they should listen to them.
In theory, yes. But here's the flaw in that logic. What if the people are shouting for a narrative solution to a systemic problem, and the politician, wanting to get reelected, gives it to them? The problem gets worse.
Give me an example.
Okay. Let's say people feel poor. They're struggling. The systemic cause might be a collapse in the global supply chain, or maybe automation has made their skills obsolete. The loud demand is print more money, or give us a check.
That feels good. I get more money.
It does. But if the underlying systemic problem isn't fixed, all that new money just creates hyperinflation and makes the problem 1,000 times worse. The politician listened to the loudest voice, and in doing so, doomed the very people he was trying to help.
So the politician is caught in a trap. If they do the accurate thing, which is probably boring, hard to explain, and involves some kind of shared sacrifice, they get voted out of office for being out of touch.
And if they do the loud thing, the theater, the marketing, they stay in power, but the underlying system continues to rot from the inside out.
Structural reform is a really hard sell. Try running a political campaign on a platform of, I'm going to implement a nuanced, multi-layered adjustment to the tax incentives regarding algorithmic labor displacement.
Snooze. I'm already asleep. You've lost the entire electorate.
Right. But run a campaign on, I'm going to ban the Boo OTS and save your jobs.
Now you're talking. I'd vote for that guy. Even if I know deep down he can't actually do it, it just feels better.
And that feeling, that desire for it to feel better, brings us to the most painful part of this deep dive. Section 4. The comfort slogan trap. Because we, the voters, the listeners, you and me, we are complicit in this. We crave the lie because the truth is too much work.
We crave what the source calls the great misread. We take these massive structural threats and we convert them into manageable, bite-sized, but ultimately inaccurate slogans.
And Jafar Humayun identifies 4 specific slogans that we use to make the future feel less scary. I want to go through these one by one because I'm guilty of using at least 3 of these in casual conversation. I think we all are.
We all have. They're emotional stabilizers. They're like mental sedatives. They keep us from panicking. But the key is that they prioritize our sense of ease over any kind of real accuracy.
Okay, slogan number 1. This is the big one. AI is just a tool. You hear this from tech optimists all the time. It's like a calculator. It's like a hammer. Humans are still in charge and only does what we tell it to do.
And that's the comfort, right? It puts us back in the center of the universe. It feels safe. We are the masters. But the reality, according to the source, is that AI is not a tool. It's a labor replacement system.
What's the difference? I mean, a hammer is a labor replacement system. It replaces the need to pound something with a rock.
But a hammer doesn't have agency. A hammer doesn't wake up while you're sleeping, look at the half-finished house you're building, and decide to finish it for you. And then while it's at it, it also redesigns the kitchen because it found a better, more efficient blueprint online.
That's a creepy image.
AI acts as an agent. It makes decisions. It optimizes. It learns from its own mistakes in a way a hammer can't. When you use an agent, you aren't just wielding a tool. You are delegating cognition. You are outsourcing thought. And eventually, the agent becomes better at the task than you are.
So saying it's just a tool is a way of denying that we are creating our own replacement. It's a way of minimizing what's actually happening.
It's a way of denying its agency. It lulls us into a false sense of superiority. I control the machine, right up until the moment the machine controls the entire workflow and you're no longer needed.
Okay, that one hurts. Let's move to slogan number 2. This is the politician's absolute favorite. We'll reskill.
Ah, yes, the classic learn to code defense.
Exactly. Don't worry about the truck drivers. They'll all become drone operators. Don't worry about the accountants. They'll become, I don't know, AI ethics consultants. We did it in the Industrial Revolution. We moved from farms to factories. We can do it again. It'll be fine.
The comfort here is historical precedent. The logic is, we survived massive change before, so we'll survive it again. But the reality is what the source calls the skill cycle lag.
Skill cycle lag. Break that down for us.
Okay, think about that farm to factory transition. That took generations. A farmer didn't have to become a skilled factory worker in 6 months. His son, maybe, or his grandson. And once you learned how to operate a lathe or a loom, that skill was valuable for 40 years. You could build a career, buy a house, and retire on it.
Right. My grandfather learned one trade, and he did it for his entire life. The skill was stable.
Now look at AI. The capabilities of the leading models are doubling every, 18 months? Maybe even faster now.
It feels like every week there's a new mind-blowing demo.
So let's run a scenario. Let's say you are a graphic designer, Midjourney comes out, you start losing clients, you decide, okay, I'm going to adapt, I'm going to reskill and become a prompt engineer. That's the new hot job. So you take a course, it takes you 6 months to really master it.
Okay, I'm studying hard, I'm adapting.
By the time you finish your course and get your certificate, the next version of Midjourney comes out, and it writes its own prompts based on simple natural language. Your brand new skill is now obsolete before the ink is even dry on your certificate.
So you're constantly chasing a finish line that is moving away from you at 100 miles per hour.
Precisely. The lag is the killer. Human neuroplasticity, our ability to learn new, complex skills, is fixed. We learn at a biological speed. AI learns at an exponential digital speed. You cannot reskill your way out of a system that learns 1,000,000 times faster than you do. The math doesn't work.
Wow. It's not that we can't learn.
Yeah.
It's that we can't learn fast enough to stay relevant.
Correct. The cycle time has collapsed.
Okay. Slogan number 3, we'll regulate. This is the one I hear from my more policy-minded friends. We just need guardrails. We need an FDA for algorithms. The government will step in and fix this.
The comfort here is a deep-seated belief in authority, a sort of daddy will save us mentality. The system will protect us.
But the reality.
The reality is institutional bandwidth. We go right back to that Windows 95 analogy. Look at our current regulatory bodies, the FDA, the SEC, Congress itself. They are still trying to figure out how to properly regulate social media, and that technology is 20 years old. They are still utterly confused by cryptocurrency.
I watched a hearing where a senator asked a tech CEO how his company makes money if its product is free. It was painful to watch.
That is the bandwidth deficit in action. Bureaucracy is designed on purpose to be slow. It requires committees, public comment periods, legal reviews, stakeholder input. That entire process takes years. In the years it takes to pass one law, the AI has gone from GPT-4 to GPT-7.
So by the time the regulation is signed into law,
It is regulating a technology that no longer exists in that form. It's like passing a law today about how to properly care for horses on the interstate highway system. It's completely irrelevant. The law simply cannot catch the code.
which leaves us with the last big one, slogan number 4. Tech will create new jobs. This is the classic economic argument, the counter to the lump of labor fallacy. Technology never destroys work in the aggregate. It just moves it up the value chain. We will find new things to do that we can't even imagine yet.
This is the most seductive slogan of all because for the last 200 years, it has always been true. But Jafar's analysis suggests this historical precedent assumes the existence of distinct domains.
Distinct domains. What does that mean?
In the past, machines took over physical labor. They replaced our muscles, the steam engine, the tractor, the assembly line. That left the entire domain of cognitive labor using our brains as a safe harbor for humans. That was a distinct, protected domain. We retreated from the field to the office.
AI is coming for the office.
AI is coming for the office, the studio, the lab, the courtroom. AI is eroding the cognitive domain. If the machine can lift the heavy box and write the poetry and do the accounting and design the bridge, where is the safe zone for humans to retreat to this time?
There isn't one. We run out of places to go.
Exactly. It erodes both white-collar and blue-collar domains simultaneously. So the new jobs argument might rely on a fundamental misunderstanding of what intelligence actually is and where human value comes from.
So let's recap these 4 horsemen. It's just a tool. False. It has agency. We'll reskill. False. We're too slow. We'll regulate. False. The government is too slow. New jobs will appear. Maybe false because there's nowhere left to hide.
And we cling to these slogans because they function as emotional stabilizers. They let us sleep at night. They let us pretend that the 20th century's social contract is still valid and that everything will be fine with a few minor tweaks.
But it's not. And that brings us to the really sobering part of this, Section 5. The closing window of adaptation. Because eventually, you have to wake up. Eventually, the slogans stop working because reality becomes too obvious to ignore.
The source calls this the threshold of realization.
It's the Wile E. Coyote moment, isn't it? You've been running on thin air for 100 yards, and then you make the mistake of looking down and realize there is no ground beneath you.
And what happens when that realization hits the general public? Not just the people on tech Twitter who talk about this all day, but the average person.
I have to imagine it's panic.
Specifically, economic panic. Unemployment spikes that don't recover like they used to. Lending seizes up because banks literally can't predict who will have a stable income in 5 years. Migration patterns accelerate because people are desperately moving to find any scraps of stability. The system starts to short circuit.
And the real tragedy here is the timing of it all.
The lag time cost. This is absolutely crucial to understand. By the time these symptoms are undeniable, by the time the average person feels the crisis in their own life, the adaptation window has already slammed shut.
Why? Why can't we just start to fix it then when everyone is finally on board?
Because building the actual structural response, a universal basic income system that actually works and doesn't cause hyperinflation, a completely new education system for a post-work world, a new tax base that takes a decade of careful planning, debate, and implementation. You cannot build a fire station after the city has already burned to the ground.
So we are currently in the window of opportunity where we could be building the fire station, but we aren't, because the comfort slogans are keeping us asleep at the switch.
Exactly. We are collectively hitting the snooze button on the smoke alarm because we prefer the dream to the reality of the fire.
And when we finally wake up and our institutions realize they are powerless to stop it. The source uses this phrase that really stuck with me, not collapse, but institutional stalling.
It's a great term. It's much more accurate. People think of collapse like a Hollywood movie explosions, anarchy in the streets.
Yeah.
But stalling is more realistic. The government doesn't disappear. The buildings are still there. It just becomes irrelevant.
It transforms into theater for a displaced audience.
That is the most haunting phrase in the entire document, I think.
Explain that. What does that look like? Theater for a displaced audience.
Imagine millions of people who have lost their economic purpose. They've been displaced by these systems. They are angry. They are confused. They are scared. What does the government do for them? It can't fix the underlying AI problem because it missed the window years ago. So it performs.
It gives powerful speeches. It passes symbolic laws that don't actually do anything. It holds rallies and investigations.
It provides symbols of control and agency. It rearranges the deck chairs on the Titanic with great ceremony. It looks like leadership, it sounds like leadership, but the ship is still drifting because the rudder was disconnected 10 miles back. The interventions came too late.
It's a simulation of governance for an audience that desperately needs to believe someone is in control.
Precisely. And that is the ultimate danger of the cognitive bottleneck. It doesn't lead to a violent revolution necessarily. It leads to a slow, creeping irrelevance where we are entertained by our leaders, but not actually governed by them.
I need to take a deep breath. This is heavy stuff. It feels like we are watching a car crash in very slow motion and we're all in the car.
It is heavy. But we can't stop here because the whole point of the AI Futures framework isn't to make you depressed and tell you it's hopeless. It's to challenge your assumptions so we can actually begin to think differently.
Right, and that's what Section 6 is about. It's about reframing the challenge. It calls this a civilizational stress test.
We need to zoom out. Stop looking at your job or your investment portfolio or the next election cycle. Look at the species. AI, in this framing, is a scale reasoning test.
A test of what?
A test of whether we, as a collective, can reason at a scale that matches our own technology. We have built godlike technology, but we are trying to manage it with medieval institutions and Paleolithic emotions. The test is, can we bridge that gap before the gap swallows us whole?
The bandwidth deficit. We just don't have the capacity.
Yes, and the source is very clear on this next point. The failure, if we do fail, won't be because the problem is unsolvable. We have the resources, we have the data, we have the brain power in individual pockets all over the world.
We're smart enough to build the AI in the first place, so we should be smart enough to manage it.
In theory. But the failure would come from the bandwidth deficit in our collective reasoning. We are choked by our own inability to process the signal together as a society. We are too busy fighting over the narrative to sit down and read the instruction manual.
Which brings us to the final analogy from the source. The instruction manual.
The problem isn't that the puzzle is too hard, it's that we never read the instructions.
We are trying to assemble a nuclear reactor using the instructions for a Lego set, and we're getting furious that the pieces don't fit.
And we're yelling at each other about who lost the little plastic Lego pieces. Meanwhile, the reactor core is going critical.
So the solution, if there is one, is to consciously make a trade. We have to swap the narrative comfort we crave for what the source calls strategic simplification.
Which isn't simple at all. It means we have to choose to be bored. We have to choose to look at the plumbing instead of watching the play. We have to stop rewarding the politicians who give us the best theater and start rewarding the ones who are willing to talk about systemic latency and algorithmic taxation, even if it's not sexy or exciting.
We have to upgrade the operating system. We have to learn to think collectively, not just feel loudly.
Think collectively, not just feel loudly. If you take one thing away from this entire deep dive, let it be that.
It's a call to action. But it's a strange one. It's not a call to go march in the streets or shout online. It's a call to sit down, shut up, and think.
To think slowly, to read the long paper, to question the comfort slogan, to resist the dopamine hit of the hot take.
It's a big ask in this media environment. But the alternative is, well, the alternative is the fire.
The alternative is the fire.
The alternative is the stalling, the slow drift into irrelevance.
Well, I think our listeners have a lot to chew on. I certainly do. I feel like I need to go sit in a dark room and stare at a wall for a while just to process all this.
That's actually a good start. That's slow thinking. That's the beginning of the upgrade.
Before we sign off, I want to leave everyone with the final reflective question from Jafar's analysis. It's a question meant to haunt you a little bit, to stick with you.
It's a question about our own agency in all of this. It puts the responsibility back on us.
Here it is. If we are using a 19th century interface to solve a 21st century exponential problem, is the problem truly unsolvable? Or are we simply looking at the instructions through a blurred lens? It puts the ball back in our court, doesn't it? The lens is ours to clean, if we choose to.
Absolutely. And we are not done with this. This was just episode 26 of the series. We are continuing the AI futures journey. So what is on the horizon for our next deep dive?
Up next is episode 27, Innovation versus Sovereignty. And if you thought this was complex, wait until we get to the nation state. We are going to examine the fundamental trap facing modern governments, why they aren't just asleep at the wheel, but are structurally caught between the desperate need to innovate to stay competitive on the world stage and the simultaneous need to protect their borders and their populations. It's the nation state versus the cloud.
That sounds like a clash of titans. I can't wait.
It's going to be essential listening for anyone trying to understand the next decade.
Until then, thanks for diving in with us.
Stay tuned.
Stay curious.
See systemic.